Former President Trump was in New York City today invoking the fifth in the state attorney general's investigation into his business practices. It is the latest in a contentious week, to say the least, for Trump world. Let's talk about it with Rina Shah from the Renew Democracy Initiative, who's up late with me tonight on the Final Five. Rina, it's always good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Jim, good to see you.
We saw this happen today. Obviously, we'll get to what happened earlier in the week in a moment, but I don't think it was a surprise that the former president invoked his right to the Fifth Amendment today. Would you agree?
He certainly has that right. We're a nation of laws, and why shouldn't somebody go for that if they feel that that is something that protects them from potential incrimination?
We know that the president has been, in many of these investigations, maintained that they were politically motivated. In the case of this one, it's being conducted by the Democratic Attorney General, Letitia James. He had called her a racist in her investigation as he pursued that, and had some things to say about her political acumen as well. You know, I know you're not the legal advisor here, but, you know, it seems like regardless, the president's not going to go down without a fight, or the former president's not going to go down without a fight on this one.
Well, the political ramifications are severe here. And yes, this is a legal matter, Jim. This is certainly something that we should look and listen to the experts on. But you don't have to be a political insider or a legal expert to know that certainly what's happened here is an obviously unprecedented move. To search a now private citizen, the former leader of the free world, is no small task. And it's a task that wasn't taken without great consideration, I must say. I think this was done methodically by the FBI, who we have still yet to hear from, the Department of Justice, again, who we have still yet to hear from. So in this era, we know that the court of opinion sort of feels like the only court that really matters. Let's stand by and wait to hear from these two agencies, because right now we are hearing one person's version of a two-sided story, and that is that of former President Trump.
Look, you did not, and as we mentioned many times when you've been on the show before, you were at the RNC in 2016. You were one of the first delegates to oppose then candidate Trump here, but you were not a Democrat. And one thing that had been brought up many times was during the run-up to the 2016 election, when Jim Comey came out and kept giving briefings on the Hillary Clinton investigation, some people believe that colored the election, and maybe the FBI shouldn't have gotten involved by making those public statements. Do you think that we would be better served if the FBI, if Chris Wray or somebody came out and just at least explained what was going on here?
Well, this is where I agree with Governor Larry Hogan, is that we need transparency. And I think in this moment, it wouldn't be an unusual move to get out and sort of say to the American people, this is why we went about what we went about the other night. And this is exactly the next steps that we foresee. Of course, President Trump himself could choose to present the warrant to the American public. The search warrant, which again had to clear internal hurdles at FBI, because the director himself was appointed by President Trump. Let's not forget. So there were probably a lot of internal hurdles to clear there before this warrant made its way to a judge. And this was a Trump-appointed judge as well. There was probable cause needed for this warrant to be executed. And look, was it the highest standard of probable cause? No. But was it the lowest? Also no. But we would learn more if the agency heads came out and sort of gave us an inside look. I think it would serve us better in this moment, and it would make for some degree of transparency that we really need. But also, let's not forget, Jim, I want to jump to this for a moment because this is a really important point.
Sure, go for it.
This investigation is about accountability. And there can be no justice without accountability. So regardless of what side of the political spectrum you find yourself on, we should be sort of congratulating this search. The very fact that it's happening means our democracy, our republic, is healthy. Laws are on the books, and we have democracy in motion because nobody can be above the law here. Not a former president who is now a private citizen, excuse me. Definitely not.
When you say that, it brings to mind the conversation we had on a national level over the last couple of years, whether you back the blue or defund the police, and yet there are people in the Republican Party, people get pissed off at me when I bring up Marjorie Taylor Greene's name on this show. They say she's a freshman congresswoman. She does not have sway in this government. She is one of the loudest voices on the right now. She's selling merchandise that says defund the FBI. You have Senator Rand Paul, and you have other people coming out without evidence saying that the FBI planted evidence here at Mar-a-Lago right now. So you talk about being a nation of laws. It seems as though a lot of these very prominent voices, people who are going to guide this party, especially past this midterm election, depending on who takes control, the system works when they want it to work, it seems.
Well, Jim, those examples you brought up are not just, they leave political insiders scratching their heads, but they also leave the average everyday citizen who's wondering what we're supposed to think of our elected leaders, people who are, again, democratically elected to serve us. They are public servants. When they're giving us messages about the agencies that, again, the sort of constitutions, our country's guiding documents have talked about being a nation of laws. These agencies are guided by laws on the books. And we have elected leaders telling us not to trust them. What's happening here? What's wrong with this picture? It sort of feels like a moment in which there's no leadership anywhere. And I'll take it a step further to share the example of Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, who I believe didn't need to wade into this mess. He came out with a statement on Twitter talking about how this is the same Department of Justice that has labeled Loudoun County parents as terrorists. There's no fact or sort of evidence to back up that allegation. Well, and that's what worries me. So the whataboutism and the misinformation that's coming out of our highest office holders right now is not just troublesome, it's detrimental to the very health and public safety as well, as we know, because of January 6th.
We know this is far from over. Rina, I got to leave it at that. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And the Final Five is back after this.